Okay, you guys, this is from Tampa Bay Times. Another horror story from another child Scientologist. Shocking. I Still Have Nightmares by Curtis Kruger. Dated November 10th, 1991. When Beth Erlich was 11, she signed her first contract, a billion-year contract. Beth didn't understand it too well, but her father had explained it. If she signed the contract, she would help save the world. I thought that, of course, I want to save the world. The young girl had just pledged her life to Scientology. The contract is a standard document whose unusual duration is not questioned in a church that believes in reincarnation. For the next several years, she grew up in Clearwater as a loyal Scientologist. She's a child. She's a child. So why would you say she's loyal? In her early teens, she said she worked until 10:30 almost every night, including school nights. She said she didn't complain when dinner was rice and beans. Where have we heard that before? Or when cockroaches scampered across her room. Health department codes, anyone? I guess Scientology doesn't have to follow health codes. Now, 8 years have passed since Beth last saw Clearwater. She has left the church. But the nightmares haven't stopped. It's PTSD. Even now, she sees Clearwater's Fort Harrison Hotel in a recurring dream. It's a nightmare. Her former guardians appear. Names, 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 names. A sensation of pressure stifles her. I keep screaming at the top of my lungs about this guardianship, but it doesn't feel like anyone's listening. I can't get out, Beth said recently. I can't leave the Fort Harrison building. It's still making an impression. I'm still not over it, she said. I'm still not. I still have nightmares. Beth and her sister Christy grew up in the Church of Scientology. It was a shattering experience that, in some ways big and small, forced them apart from their parents. Isn't that a great way to say it, you guys? You mean how the parents just gave the kids up? I think that's what Tampa Bay means. I think they mean the parents just gave up their kids. That's what I think's pretty much being alluded to here. Critics of Scientology, no questioners. Why does everybody want to use Scientology lingo? Can someone please tell me why everybody has to utilize Scientology lingo? I mean, think of the last 5 or 10 years where certain groups of people were demonized. Conspiracy theorist when you ask a question. You're an anti-this if you ask a question. A lot of times you end up dead, you ask a question. Questioners of Scientology, or we should just say people who ask questions about Scientology, say their story is not unusual. In a church that demands total devotion, total slavery, they say family life and children often come in second. They always do. You know what comes first, though? Child SA. That comes first. So the story of Beth and Christy is the story of many of Scientology's children. And I could say that, that's my opinion. There's enough recorded evidence now of how many children have been and continue to get SA'd. Apparently, adults in small bodies doesn't really work. The church labels its questioners disgruntled former members, I changed that, and hate vendors. Imagine them calling people who ask questions hate vendors when they openly discriminate against gay people, they openly discriminate against disabled children and disabled adults. Tell them, what are they, like a 1.1 on the tone scale or something like that? The lowest of the low? Said the Black Tooth Hubbard, allegedly. Hate vendors actually said church spokesman Richard Howarth. Scientology helps parents and children to improve their relationships with each other. It's all a great big illusion. The two sisters shared a bedroom at their home in Los Angeles and rode their bikes to school together. They called each other gold and silver because they were alike but slightly different. Beth was brunette, Christy blonde. I'm making videos for these two. Beth was 9, Christy 8. Even their Christmas gifts were alike, but slightly different. They usually got the same gift in different colors. People, when they talked about Beth, they talked about me too, and vice versa, Christy remembers. We were kind of one person in a way, Beth and Chris. But not for long. Beth and Christy's parents, both Scientologists, had divorced, so they must have been public initially. Had divorced in the early 1970s. Seems like 70s was the golden years, man. The girls lived in California with their mother, who snapped a photo of Beth and Christy staring at each other in a church training routine. It's a bull baiting. Isn't that great, you guys? Their father, Dennis Erlich, had left to join the staff at the church's spiritual headquarters in Clearwater. Yeah, because that's more important than, tending to your kids. He was a chief cramming officer. Did I read this before? I don't think I read this. I remember that term. A position he now describes as a quality control engineer at the brainwashing plant. At the time, the job seemed crucial, but Erlich missed his daughters. On visits to Los Angeles, he urged the girls to move to Clearwater with him. Eventually, Beth agreed. Beth agreed. Since when do fathers ask children? I mean, it's all about, is Scientology going to give him permission? That was kind of left out, wasn't it? Beth moved to Clearwater in 1978. So how would she be? And Miss Christie immediately, the two girls, 9 and 10, became instant pen pals. Mind you, they can't say anything negative about Scientology, and all the mail is scanned, which also is a federal crime, but federal crimes, not a big deal. Beth learned quickly that her life had changed dramatically. She lived with her father and his new wife in a room the size of a closet at the Fort Harrison Hotel, the biggest Scientology-owned building in Clearwater. By the way, I just want to add in here, you guys, I'm finding several stories of people who actually jumped from the buildings at Fort Harrison Hotel. And imagine the cops being all like, oh yeah, acting like there's no problem. That didn't last. Soon she moved in with about 20 women. That would be the birthing quarters. Tampa Bay left that one out too. In a different room in the hotel. Tampa Bay, that's the birthing quarters. You guys didn't know that? Come on. The room was bigger, but stuffed with bunks and dressers. Next, she moved across town to the QI, a former Quality Inn. Quality Inn. The Scientologist had bought on US 19, near East Bay Drive. Dennis Erlich said it was not unusual for parents and children. Listen how he says this. Listen how he says this. Dennis Erlich said it was not unusual. It's not unusual, you guys, for parents and children to live in different rooms at the Quality Inn. They abbreviated it to QI because they didn't want people to know about the hotels, I guess. Like hotels of darkness. That's just the way it was, he said. Sound like a person who does not take any responsibility? I mean, mind control is one thing, but at some point. Sometimes Beth would return to discover she had been moved out of her room with no warning. How many times have we heard about that? Jenna Miscavige talked about that. So many people have talked about that. You don't get to decide anything, don't you know? You don't get to decide where you live. You don't get to keep your... I think Jenna was explaining that her and her husband, once they did get married, they had bought a few like nice little items of furniture for their, their little room. And she came back once and everything was gone. They're good for doing that. So if you guys are at the Blue Building or around that area and you see furniture just discarded, that's what they did. Isn't that wonderful? No boundaries, like zero boundaries. But she's a kid, so that makes it even worse. Sometimes Beth would return to discover she had been moved out of her room with no warning. We're talking at like 10:30 at night, after she worked 18 hours. I would come home and my stuff would be someplace else. She guesses she eventually was moved as many as 20 times. Children, she said, were moved routinely to make room for adult Scientologists. Let me rephrase this. Or repeat it, I mean. Children, she said, were moved routinely to make room for adult Scientologists. Children are nothing in there, don't you guys know? And that just reiterates that the children are living right amongst the adults. No probable causes there, no potential for child SA. I want to say so much. During the day, Beth attended a Scientology-affiliated school. Was that the Apple School? She described it as a go-at-your-own pace. Oh yeah, Scientology is real good for... they love to... How do I explain it? They learn exactly what they need to do per law. And it's like they sort of like manipulate the laws in a way regarding like schools. So a lot of them do the homeschooling, and then there's no real checkpoints or anything like that. Go at your own pace, choose your own courses system. Listen to idiotic LRH all day. 1 year in 8th grade, she went to Oak Grove Middle School, a public school in Clearwater. We were such poor students, she said. That's all I can remember was how backward, how awful I felt. Anything to shame the kids, too. Because you're not supposed to have any self-esteem. You're not supposed to love yourself or believe in yourself or think of anything outside of Scientology. Rest in peace, Philip Gale. At the time, I was used to eating main dishes, which were rice with something or beans with something. A multi-billion-dollar corporation, but they can't feed their people. Can't feed the children. I'll bet you the children were making that food as well. You want to really know what's going on? Look at the symbolism on these buildings. Compared to the food served up at the QI, the Quality Inn, Hotel of Darkness, for the Scientology staff, lunches and breakfasts at school were wonderful, she said. Oh wow, it was heaven, she said. It was incredible, a square meal. I keep hearing this over and over. It's like the children would just take whatever crumbs they were given. It's the saddest thing. Why would someone allow their child to live as Beth did? Scientologists, particularly staff Scientologists. Here we go. Firmly believe they are saving the world. Former members say, next to that grand purpose, everything else is secondary. It's Brave New World. Former members of the FLDS Church as well as Jehovah's Witnesses are saying their religions were devised in the same way. Must be a coincidence. Scientology comes first and everything else is off purpose, said Vicky Asnaran. Well, here we go, you guys. A former high-ranking, prestigious executive. You ever notice how the prestigious executives are always all over the stories? Almost like they're trying to control the information and what gets out. A former high-ranking Scientology official, like Rinder and all of them, who is suing the church. Parents who want to spend time with their children are looked down on. It's not socially acceptable. Any wonder why the little babies are getting RAPED? Haworth responded, true parents on the church staff do work longer hours because of their commitment, I'd say idiocracy, to the goals of the church. But they also have fashioned a system that provides for families to live What did I just say? What did I just say? To live in a healthy environment. Imagine anyone saying this. Imagine anybody that was out of Scientology saying this. Despite the demands on time. The demands are because everybody in their hypnotized state are following L. Ron Hubbard policies. Period. Here we go. Dennis Ehrlich was happy to have Beth by his side and proud. How old was she by this time? Like 9? He considered, you guys are going to love this one. I'm going to try to be decent. He considered himself a superior parent. Imagine this. He had brought Beth to Clearwater, where she could accomplish something truly important. This sounds to me like a cover-up. That's my opinion. Here she was helping church staff members who gave people Scientology counseling and training. So in other words, she was a staff member. Why doesn't he just say, my daughter at 9 years old was a staff member? That doesn't sound right. Here she was helping church staff members. Please. Please. The thought of preparing her for college and a career never crossed his mind. Never crossed his mind, anyone. Never crossed his mind. I didn't want my daughter to be a part of just normal society, he said. Oh, you know what he doesn't say, though? He doesn't say he didn't want his child participating in the WOG world, the W-O-G world, which is a racial slur. That's what he didn't say. I wanted her to grow up to be, like me. Can't see my eyeballs rolling. An auditor or a cramming officer or something worthwhile. An auditor, you guys. Auditing makes them the bulk of their money, right? Go and see how many people have jumped out of those buildings in Fort Harrison. The ones that the Clearwater PD loved to guard. Yeah. Just love the manipulation of the language, you guys. Beth accepted the role. Really? Did Beth have a choice? Did Beth have a choice, anyone? She took Scientology courses, and after turning 11, she was only 11. She was only 11, you guys. Signed the billion-year contract to join the Sea Org. No mention of the sister either. Christy just, out by herself. No mom, no dad. That's not a recipe for disaster. The Sea Organization is a group, here we go with this bullshit frickin' definition. I'm so sick of hearing this. People need to start explaining it for what it really is. The Sea Organization is a group of highly committed staff. No, highly committed slaves. Highly committed slaves who do the church's, I'm changing it, who do the church's manual labor, who make all the money being auditors as children, who do all the cleaning of the toilets and the hotel where the prestigious executives get served by 4 and 5 and 6-year-old children, cleaning their clothes, ironing their clothes. They try to call that spiritual work. Henceforth, all the R1 and R2 visa fraud. Look it up. Members, children generally work 12-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week, and currently are paid about $30 per week. Not 33? Why not 33, you guys? Can somebody explain why it's not 33? The church gives them room and board. Don't worry, you guys. The church gives the children room and board. Yeah, 60 per room, but, adults mixed with children, roaches and rats and mice and bed bugs and dirty mattresses. It's disgusting. Beth still went to school during the day, but at night, she worked as a file clerk. She's 11, you guys. She's 11 years old. Worked as a file clerk and at other jobs. Then alongside her father at the Fort Harrison. And I mean, I'm being kind of hard on the father. I am being kind of hard, but it seems like he was trying to protect her a little bit. I wish the other daughter would have gone with him. He's not saying it, but there might have been some type of him protecting her there. So I can give him just a little bit of credit there. Often alongside her father at the Fort Harrison. Listen to this, how they make this sound. At her request. At her request, you guys. She sometimes studied Scientology during work hours. At her request, you guys, at 11. In the middle of all her manual labor, she requested to listen to LRH indoctrination. But, Tampa Bay Times, sometimes I'm not thrilled with their articles, but they're probably walking a fine line as well, maybe. Scientology school never assigned homework, she said. Apparently the Florida Department of Education's fine with that too. It was just understood that when we left school, we left it and went to work. Thank God for working at 11 years old, right? She described a typical schedule. Sunday from 8 in the morning until 10:30 at night. Thank God child labor is paying all the Clearwater PD all their extra overtime, right? And all those checks that they take. I'm sure that Clearwater PD is taking them as well. Monday through Friday from after school until 10:30 p.m. Saturday noon to 10:30 p.m. 1 week off the next. I mean, thank God the 11-year-old's getting a little bit of time off, right? Nothing could go wrong there, could it? That works out to about 50 hours of work a week. during school in the summer. Beth said she worked full-time. Other children worked similar hours, she said. They all did. I never got a chance to just sit around. She never got a chance to be a kid. These children's lives are stolen, and they're still being stolen. On her fortnightly days off, she liked to spend time with her dad. They would sleep late, eat at a favorite deli, go to the beach, and see a movie. That's good. What about the other daughter? Beth also got Scientology auditing. Of course she did. In which she was hooked up to a device called an e-meter, similar to a lie detector. It's similar, you guys. I'm going to go do some more deep diving into the e-meter and, the cover story of what it was, how it was created. And asked about things that troubled her. They got to get their ruin on the 11-year-old and make Daddy pay for it. Isn't it wonderful? The future looked clear. I grew up thinking that I was going to become something in the church. They all do. It's it's similar to moving the goalpost. It's how they keep people going. Beth said I wasn't going to college, I wasn't going to learn a trade. Despite his pride, apparently all the Scientology parents are like this. I mean, I can't make a general statement over all the parents, but apparently being proud when your 11 or 12-year-old child is doing manual labor and doing LRH indoctrination all day, they're proud of it. But they're also under coercion and duress, so. Despite his pride, Dennis Ehrlich was a little worried. He knew the Church of Scientology's environment was a harsh one. I think he knew a lot more than he's saying, but he probably can't say everything. People always screamed at each other. I've heard that before. And important people got demoted and shamed at a moment's notice. That's that whole, the narcissistic shame, make you feel bad that you're no good. You got to make amends. You need everybody else's approval. It's the narcissism built right into the policies. So he decided to toughen her up. This should be great. Once when she did something that irked him, he simply stopped talking to her for several weeks. Isn't that wonderful, you guys? Silent treatment, anyone? He didn't say a word, not even on her birthday. So that was going to toughen her up, everyone. He's actually admitting to this. The ideal Scientology parent. Oh, this should be freaking great. Oh, I'm going to try not to float out all the MFs and the Fs. And the ideal Scientology parent does not pamper a child. I would say they don't love their child in very many cases. In fact, several former members said Scientologists believe children are adults in small bodies who shouldn't be ordered around. I think that was meant to be who should be ordered around. Or I don't know, maybe he shouldn't. In order to be a good Scientologist, says former member Adeline Dode-Bova, you're allowing your child to be responsible for themselves. I don't have to tell my 5-year-old son if he's hungry or not. He knows. I don't have to make him dinner. He can get food. Huh. Maybe that's why S.P. Chef became the chef of the kitchen in Grinstead, East Grinstead, when he was, 9? Scientology literature on children, like much of Hubbard's other writings, allegedly, is subject to several interpretations. Yeah, you could say that again. The more the general public learns about this, people are going to be so outraged. The following passage, for instance, from Hubbard's How to Live with Children, could have come from Dr. Spock. Don't be messing with Dr. Spock like this. A good, stable adult with love and tolerance in his heart is about the best therapy a child can have. I don't even know what to say. I don't want to go there. Other passages sound more like what Dode Bova was talking about. Any law which applies to the behavior of men and women applies to children. What about raping kids? Where's that come in? Or when you give a child something, it's his, so he tears up a shirt, wrecks his bed, breaks his fire engine. It's none of your business. I have to start comparing the Spritzmeyer, or what is it called, Fritz Springmeier book. They're severing the, right here, this is trauma-based mind control. They're severing any father-child connection. They're severing any mother-child connection. It's what they're doing purposely. It's all trauma-based mind control. As Beth worked in the cloistered world of Scientology, Christie's letters from California provided a link to the outside. They told Beth which bands were hot, what slang was in vogue. But Christie's letters weren't enough. Beth suffered bouts of depression because she missed her sister and mother. How about that? I think the father and mother were divorced, weren't they, you guys? I think that's what I read. Which, honestly, I believe a lot of those Scientology marriages are purposely broken up. They don't want husbands and wives to be real close and loving to each other. In a lot of cases. I'm not saying every single Scientologist does this, but I believe that. This created a conflict. It created a conflict because she was missing her mother and her sister, guys. That was a conflict. I don't know. I'm not really impressed with his mother so far. We'll see. I felt like I needed to be in the church because that was the right thing to do. It's all she knew, she said. But then the little girl inside of me was saying, I need to be with my mom. This also reminds me of Janice Gillum Grady. Yeah, go read her book, please. She wished her mother would have told her to stay home in Los Angeles. That would have made it easier to leave. But her mother never said a thing. It wouldn't have been proper, family members said. Imagine this, you guys. That just wasn't part of Scientology, Christy said. Part of my mom was saying Beth is a being unto herself, and she must make her decisions and do her thing. 11 years old, you guys. And the other half of her was saying, wait a second, you're her mom. You love her. You want her to be with you. And in a way, I think that's all it would have taken to get Bethy to stay. But that Scientology and my mom wouldn't allow her to express her feelings about that. Beth didn't learn until years later how her mother really felt. This makes me want to cry. She was crying really the entire time that Beth was gone, Christy said. I think that's going on a lot. Christy said her mother did not want to comment for this article. Beth was allowed to visit her family in Los Angeles a couple of times a year. It's because... Oh, wait, never mind. I was thinking of extended family. Every time Beth returned, it was like lovers reuniting, Christy recalls. I mean, we practically, all of us kind of clung to each other the entire time she was there. Then depression would sink in. After the first couple of days, I would just be totally scared about the fact that I had to leave, Beth said. It's PTSD. I can remember them telling me, you're here right now. You're not leaving. There's no reason to feel like you're losing us. Because you're here, right here. And it didn't mean anything. I was a basket case. Then one summer, things looked up. When Beth was 13 and Christy was 12, plans were made for Christy to visit Clearwater. Beth was ecstatic. So was Christy. Until she saw the room she was going to share with Beth at the former Quality Inn Hotel, first generations. Oh my God, I couldn't even believe that Beth lived in a place like that, Christy said. There were bugs everywhere. Apparently, all the billions of dollars that Scientology has, they don't know how to spend money on extermination. We were always scared of having bugs run across our feet and face and stuff while we were sleeping. One night while Beth was working, Christy and some other young people went to Clearwater Beach. That's coded. Young people, kids. I'm just going to rephrase that. Christy and some other kids went to Clearwater Beach. An officer stopped them, a PD. Said they were out too late and called Scientology officials. Huh. How nice of them. The decision was swift. Christy's summer vacation was cut short. She immediately would be sent back to California. They're not allowed to have fun, you guys. It just never ends with them, does it? Never ends. Beth found her sister crying in the Fort Harrison Hotel. Hotel first generations. The naughty ones. Once again, Beth was torn. She anguished over Christy. But if she went to the airport to see her sister off, it would look as if she condoned Christy's mistake. So she didn't go. For me to go and show her any sympathy was a no-no. Christy was flown home without even a kiss from her father. Well, you guys know that slipped through, don't you? I'm so sick of reading stories or hearing stories like this. Christy was 14 years old and went to the beach with some other Scientology kids. I think they were Scientology kids. Just want to have a little fun. I guess the father wasn't able to save point this story, was he? Christy was flown home without even a kiss from her father. We've heard about this from Jenna. We've heard stories like this from, whom else? So many. I cried the whole way home, Christy said. I want to bring up too, they're sending a 14-year-old girl by herself on a plane. Again, basically, I just felt like dirt. That's what they want. All she wanted to do was just go have a little bit of fun. Thank God for the Clearwater PD, or what was this? Where were they? Was this a cat? Was this? Oh, hold on. Yeah, thank God for the Clearwater PD handling the kids. Basically, I just felt like dirt. I felt like I had committed the biggest sin in my whole life, and there was no way that I could possibly make amends. It was real, real hard. You know what they told her? You got overts. You got withholds. You got to make amends. All because she went to the beach with some other kids her age. I mean, maybe I'm being a little hard on the PD. It might have been dangerous for those kids to be out there at night, but as Beth neared 15, she got tougher. Huh, kind of like Jenna Miscavige had to get tough, huh? Whom else have we heard of that had to raise themselves? They had to get tough. All that bull baiting, all that ethics handling, all those conditions of doubt, conditions of non-existence. Don't show emotion. Keep it in if you've been essayed by a grown-ass man. As Beth neared 15, she got tougher. She had suffered so many heart-wrenching emotions that she grew numb to them. That's also PTSD. I have become comfortably numb. So she was surprisingly calm upon hearing some unexpected news. Listen to how the story is going to turn around. Her father was in trouble. He had been declared a suppressive person, an enemy of Scientology, after pushing for improvements in staff conditions and for refusing to be demoted. I'm glad he did that. I was confused, she said. The organization that my dad had wanted me to be a part of was now telling him to leave. They don't often do that. But even though he was leaving, Beth Erlich still believed Scientology doctrine. Like his ex-wife, he would not urge his 14-year-old daughter to leave Clearwater. He told Beth she should make her own decision. She stayed. Well, it's because of that insular community. They make it so that people can't have friends outside of Scientology. They can't talk to a suppressive person. They can't talk to a WOG, which is a racial slur. All their jobs come from Scientology companies. Anyways, she had more allegiance to the cult than she did to me. Of course she did. And why would she? I don't know. I'm still on the fence. I don't know who to trust in these organizations. Beth Erlich said, and I can only say that that's my doing, because I was less of a father than I was a cult leader to her. Well, at least this is how it looks, everybody. At least he's admitting. I really appreciate that. Because nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. It gives me goosebumps. Some of these first gens could learn from him. Beth said the church designated a man and woman as her guardians. You know, the unnamed ones. And she remained in Clearwater, thousands of miles from her mother, father, and sister. Just how they like it. Just like the movie The Village. Ray Emmons is a former Clearwater police lieutenant. Oh, this should be great. This should be great. Who specialized in Scientology affairs. Oh, isn't that wonderful, you guys? He specialized, you guys. And sometimes, not all the time, just sometimes, interviewed people who wanted to leave the church. Anyone thinking Handler here, you guys? Handler? He said he was surprised at the number of Scientologists who wanted to leave family members behind. What a nice thing for him to say. What a great guy he was. Husbands and wives had been split from each other, and kids had been split from parents, he said. I don't trust this Emmons as far as I can throw him. I don't even like listening to it or reading it. Most cases, it was the parents that got disenchanted with Scientology. Notice he doesn't say anything like they were deemed suppressive persons. Apparently, the PD doesn't know anything about suppressive. They have no idea. And the child was not. So the parents would leave and the child would not. I mean, think about this statement. I don't even want to snap out right now. You guys, I can't snap out today. I don't have the energy. Within a year, Beth had decided she wanted to leave. So I'm thinking she's about 12 years old right now. She was confused. Well, Mom never came for her, did she? She told her superiors, the ones with no names, and herself, that she wanted to move back to California for better schooling. She requested a leave, because 12-year-olds should always request for leaves, right? Which her Scientology superiors, the ones with no names, approved in 1983. Her flight to her father's home in Colorado was arranged. Oh, so, she had to lie. They always do. She was just saying she wanted some time off. A leave, like they do in the military. Except even in the military, they don't work you this hard. You work, but not this hard. Not every day. But on the day of the flight, she was called, oh, here we go. She was called to the Fort Harrison to talk to the ethics officer, the one with no name, who deals with people who break Scientology rules. Could that have been Rathburn? No, Rathburn wasn't an ethics officer. I mean, even Tampa Bay is good at coding. Her guardian was there, the one with no name. He accused her of wanting to leave without coming back. It was so awful, she said. See what happens when you sign away your rights to your kids? See what happens? Your children are not property. They're not property. 3 hours before the flight, they were still debating the point. I started feeling like, well, they're trying to pressure me to not go. Finally, she told her guardian, the one with no name, look, I'm leaving. I'm going now. Goodbye. I also think, too, maybe anyone with, an ounce of a brain cell would know that the father, his wishes are going to trump the guardian's. I don't know. She caught a Scientology bus from the Fort Harrison to the QI, the hotel. Hotel troll, and picked up her things. There, a Scientology shuttle bus was going to take her to Tampa International Airport. They even have shuttles going to and from the airports. Think other people are not in on this shit? She stood outside the hotel. I'm just being sarcastic. Waiting. Rain started to fall. An hour before her flight, no bus had shown up. I was frantic. Yeah, they jinxed her. I didn't know what to do. Some other Scientologists came by and mentioned they were going to the airport. She asked for a ride in the car. One of them turned around and asked, "You do have clearance to leave, don't you?" She said yes. It was true, but the ethics officer had made her feel as if it wasn't. And notice how Beth has to explain this, right? That she did have clearance. Fuck clearance. I felt as if I was escaping. I was escaping the pressure. I was escaping these people who were trying to guilt me into staying. There's that old wonderful guilt. Guilt and fear. Obligation. Fear, obligation, guilt. And I didn't have anybody. There was no one there who was trying to help me. Kind of like what Jenna was going through, right? But they're really Billy Badass when it comes to picking on children, aren't they? From Tampa, she flew to Colorado. She later returned to her mother and sister in Los Angeles. Before long, all the Ehrlichs had left Scientology. Good. For Christy and her mom, the break centered on a dispute between her school, which catered to Scientologists, and the church, Christy said. Christy entered a public school in Glendale. It was such a shock to me. My grades started going down. I became uninterested in school. It's because they can't keep up. It's just tragic. I actually left high school in the 11th grade because I was really having a hard time adjusting. After leaving, I didn't have those stable things anymore. One of those was the church insistence on a drug-free environment. I really kind of ended up on the streets for a while, Christy said. She did a lot of drugs when I first left. How many stories have we heard about this? Them putting the kids right out on the street? Apparently LAPD is super fine with that. Gotta wonder what's in it for LAPD, don't you? It was the only way that I kind of felt okay about myself. She said she realized she was in a rut. How old was she? Like 15? When they kicked her out or she left? She said she realized she was in a rut. And that's trauma. That's what's called trauma. Got some counseling and got herself together. Now 23, Christy is a college student. It's wonderful. Attention, first-generation Scientologists. Attention, first-generation Scientologists. Dennis Ehrlich, 44, regrets. Regrets first generation. Regrets bringing his family into Scientology. He now manages a small business in Los Angeles. On the side, he publishes a newsletter for former Scientologists called The Informer. He recently wrote, I don't know if anyone can comprehend. Oh. So now I have all the respect for him now, you guys. It makes me want to cry. I don't know if anyone can comprehend the remorse I feel for subjecting my children to this alienating, warped, repressive environment. I pray our story serves as a warning. Scientology is dangerous to the health and sanity of your children. He's very remorseful, Beth said. He's always saying how sorry he is. Now 24, Beth is married and lives in California. She said she recently graduated from college with honors in graphic design. When she left Clearwater in 1983, she realized quickly she was never going back to Scientology. But some of the doctrines, policies, are hard to shake. Scientologists abhor psychiatry. For example, and it took Beth until this summer to seek therapy to deal with the pain of her unusual childhood. She said it has been hard to build a meaningful relationship with her father, but she's trying. It's not like life is normal. I really don't think it ever will be. That was a really powerful time. About these stories. Beginning July 29th, the St. Petersburg Times asked Scientology spokesman Richard Haworth for permission to interview Scientologist parents and children. The Times made at least 8 such requests 5 of them in writing, during the past 3 months. Oh, you're never going to allow that. Howarth either refused, declined to respond, or said he could not find volunteers. It's because he never asked anyone. When the newspaper began independently phoning Scientologists, he complained. Nonetheless, Haworth called the Times on Friday. After learning this article was scheduled to appear today, he agreed to arrange interviews with Scientologists, but asked the publication be delayed. The Times said it was willing to do the interviews, but declined to delay the story. The reporter, Curtis Kruger, covers social issues, Pinellas County politics, and the Church of Scientology. He came to the St. Petersburg Times in 1987 after working at the Fort Wayne, Indiana, Journal-Gazette. Kruger, 33, is from Bloomington, Indiana, and has a bachelor's degree in journalism from Indiana University. So I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night, wherever you are. Peace.